Okay, and Ron Johnson, as we're going to hear from another senator, is not happy about this. You got on a phone call and you just took like one question and hung up on us? This is completely unacceptable. Does the FBI and Secret Service believe that Crooks acted alone, all by himself? Was able to just waltz on in there and shoot Trump in the head? No.
One day the slope was the story. Then we find out where the Secret Service was set up. It was even a steeper slope. The Secret Service tried to flat out lie.
Question about the Trump assassination is, was this an inside job? We now know that Trump security was shifted from the Secret Service over to another group called Homeland Security Investigations. And this came out from Josh Hawley, a senator who tells us that there was a whistleblower who is now explaining what actually happened. And so Hawley sent this one out to the X universe. And it says that whistleblowers tell me that most of Trump's security detail working the event last Saturday, J13, were not even Secret Service. It was some other group from Homeland. Department of Homeland Security assigned unprepared and inexperienced personnel. And we've gone through a lot of the different guilty mental states that a person might have. You could say they have no guilty mental state. They didn't want Trump to be assassinated at all. This was an accident. You know, that's the lowest level, totally accident. They weren't responsible. You can talk about reckless misconduct, gross negligence, willful intent that they wanted this to happen, maybe indirect intentional conduct, right? They didn't organize this shooting. They allowed it to happen. They just kind of stood a bunch of stuff down. Kind of reminds you of January 6th, where they didn't bring out the National Guard and Nancy Pelosi and the Sergeant at Arms didn't answer the phone. Same thing happens here. We'll just put the corrupt agency on them. And then when they call in, hey, there's a shooter on the roof, we just don't answer. So here's the agency. Now, this came out from Josh Hawley, and we know he is from the state of Missouri. He sent this over to Alejandro Mayorkas, Homeland Security Secretary. Hawley says, all right, Mayorkas, listen, I write to raise concerns brought to me by whistleblowers about your department's stunning failure to protect President Trump on July 13th. As Secretary of Homeland, Mayorkas, you are ultimately responsible for the agency and its components. And one of the components of Homeland is Secret Service. And so whistleblowers who have direct knowledge of the event have approached my office. According to the allegations, the July 13th rally was considered to be a, quote, loose security event. For example, detection canines were not used to monitor the entry, so bombs can come right in, and to detect threats in the usual manner. Individuals without proper designations were able to gain access to backstage areas. It's like a freaking free-for-all. Department personnel did not appropriately police the security buffer around the podium, and they were also not stationed at regular intervals around this event security perimeter. It's like there wasn't even any security. In addition, whistleblower allegations suggest that the majority of Department of Homeland officials were not, in fact, U.S. Secret Service agents at all, but instead they were drawn from the department's Homeland Security Investigations Team, HSI. Does that ring a bell? Well, it should. So this is especially concerning given that HSI agents were unfamiliar with standard protocols typically used at these type of events, according to the allegations. So now Hawley says, as a member of the Senate Homeland Security and the Government Affairs Committee, which has oversight over you, Mayorkas, I will continue to investigate your department's role in the staggering security failures of July 13th. And unfortunately, your department has not been appropriately forthcoming with members of Congress, abruptly ending the only call with the U.S. Secret Service before most senators could even ask a question. Okay, and Ron Johnson, as we're going to hear from another senator, is not happy about this. You got on a phone call and you just took like one question and hung up on us? This is completely unacceptable, and it's contrary to public interest in transparency. So, Alejandro, listen, instead, we have learned more from whistleblowers than your department officials. Alejandro, I will continue to protect the anonymity and the confidentiality of everyone who contacts my office, says Senator Hawley, and ensure that they receive the full protections under the law to which they're entitled, and so that my office can continue its investigation, Alejandro, into what happened on J13. Please provide the following information no later than 7 days from now. 1. How did Homeland determine to staff the event? Great question. So who made the decision to override the, let's say, default standard of the Secret Service showing up to protect the president? Who overcame that? Was that you, Alejandro, or was that Cheatle? Including any decision to rely on state or local officers. And we saw there's already a fracture here, okay? The Secret Service was pointing their fingers at the local cops saying, I can't believe you guys didn't protect the president. They said, what, are you nuts? You guys brought us out here to do traffic. You're the Secret Service. You're supposed to be responsible for that. So what percentage, says Hawley, of the DHS agents at the event were from HSI rather rather than the Secret Service? Why did you remove Secret Service protection? Were a majority of the officers at the event drawn from HSI or other DHS components rather than the Secret Service? And if so, why? Were Homeland agents properly trained in staffing these events? Because it sure didn't look like it. Did gaps exist in the security perimeter, and were the usual protocols followed for the use of canines and magnetometers? No. Were agents not properly stationed around the podium? Were the standard protocols followed for issuing designated pins to vetted personnel that are allowed backstage? And how long did agents physically spend on the ground surveying the site before the event? Did any paperwork obligations prevent a longer or more robust site survey? I await your response. Sincerely, Josh Hawley, United States Senator. This went over also copied to Kimberly Cheatle from the U.S. Secret Service. And these are great questions. And the question I have for Josh is, did these questions come from the whistleblowers? So in other words, do we know the answers to these questions already? Did gaps exist in the security perimeter? He knows, yeah. Oh yeah, there were. And the whistleblower told him, no, we did not follow the usual protocols. Normally we have canines. Normally we have other magnetometers. Don't have those. Normally we have agents around the podium. Didn't have any. Why? Were the standard protocols followed? Designated pins. Whistleblower says, we didn't even have pins. We normally have pins. They even told us to take the pins off. So maybe he's inquiring, or maybe he knows the answer. And again, they can just tell us that there's this magical incompetence fairy that's responsible for all this stuff. Oh, it's just here's an accident. A magical incompetence accident fairy that's responsible for all 55 different security lapses that conveniently ended up with one person being shot in the ear and another in the head and others in the torso. Weird. Everybody just blames the magical incompetence fairy because they don't want to actually ascribe malice to the people who are malicious. Ridiculous. Here's Josh Hawley saying, we got to get to the bottom of this. As we saw, he wrote that letter on Cheatle. He's also commenting about this on With the Media. Here he is.
All right, some interesting developments today. Kimberly Cheatle, the head of the U.S. Secret Service, did participate in a virtual briefing today. Senator Josh Hawley was one of the principal participants in the Homeland Security Committee, Republican senator from Missouri. Senator, very good to have you.
Thank you.
How did it go?
But badly. I mean, let's be honest. The Secret Service is out there and the FBI now doing these secret calls, these behind-the-scenes briefings where, by the way, they don't really answer questions. They've strictly limited the number of questions. The Secret Service director herself did not actually brief. She was present on the call but didn't do hardly any briefing. When she did try to answer a question or two, it did not go well. She was not well prepared. This needs to be done in public. Bottom line, we need public hearings. We need a full and thorough investigation. You know, what we know about this is that there were 62 minutes between the time that the Secret Service identified the shooter as a person of interest, somebody acting suspiciously, and the time he started firing shots at the president. I mean, what in the world is going on? We've got to find out.
They just let him stay there. Yeah. He just was allowed to stand on the roof for at least 10 minutes after Trump was out already on the stage. So Marsha Blackburn was also furious about this. She says, you know, I just got off, she's another senator, with a briefing with the Secret Service and the FBI. She says, I am appalled to learn that the Secret Service knew about a threat to President Trump prior to him even walking on the stage. The dude is on the roof, getting set up, getting his scope ball in, putting everything where it needs to go. Secret Service is still waiting for their pizza to get delivered. She says, I have no confidence in the leadership of Director Cheatle, and I believe it's in the best interest of our nation if she steps down from her position, and she does so immediately. And so at the RNC, Kimberly Cheatle was either there to make sure this didn't happen again or to make sure it happened differently this time, but she was there and she got confronted big time. And so we got two clips of this. Here's one short clip. This is from Marsha Blackburn herself. Okay, this is the senator who is there from Tennessee going after and confronting the Secret Service director.
This is exactly what you were doing today on the call.
Stonewalling. Attempt. You owe the people answers. You owe President Trump.
She's like, I need Secret Service protection from these senators. Look at her. She doesn't look comfortable right there at all. Wow, I'm getting actually questioned by the senators. She knows it doesn't matter. Whatever, and do whatever we want. We're in charge here. She's like, you better be careful or else we'll take you out too, Marsha. Better watch it, Marsha. See what we do with your next security event there, Marsha. Good luck. So, all right, that's Cheatle. Now, there's another clip from her that is even a little bit longer. Here, this one was reposted by Colin Rugg. Here's what he shared from more of this conversation when they finally caught up with her.
All of us were on the call today. Very disappointed. We were all in the queue trying to answer questions, and until we run out of questions, they hadn't. Every one of us had questions that we wanted to ask. We felt we didn't get any of the responses that were necessary from you. Very disappointed in your leadership. I have called for your resignation, and I rather you resign tonight or start answering our questions right now about the death threat to President Trump and allowing him to go on stage in Pennsylvania at a time when he'd already been alerted that there was somebody with a spotter. All these situation already identified an hour before, and you let him go on.
You let him on.
Without
Why?
the knowledge of him, the team on the ground, and you put him within less than an inch of his life. So resignation or full explanation to us right now.
We are trying to get our questions in.
She even saying anything?
Was running the phone. It did not advance.
Not even saying anything.
Who was nearly killed? You leave an hour out. You have a suspicious person, and at 5:51, according to the timeline of your deputy, you identified a potential threat. Why would anyone allow the president to go on stage when you know you've got a potential threat and you've got snipers that are trained on it? Why? I don't think that this is a
Got it.
Well, you hung up on. We're here.
Did you hear? She says, I don't think this is the appropriate forum to be having this conversation. This other senator says, you hung up on us, you person.
Turn off the meeting straight. Well, we can find a place to go right now.
There's a lot of rooms. Go find a room.
All right, to the side again.
We'll leave with you then.
Okay, we'll just follow you. Yeah, we'll come with you. Where are you going?
No, we're going with you.
Yeah, we'll see you. Come on. Oh, man. Did you see how fast those senators move? Man, they can move sometimes when they want to. You got to be careful with them. Are they running? All right.
Can you answer the I'm going to tell you the answer. The answer to us. The answer to us. This is exactly what we were doing today.
This was an assassination attempt. You owe
nothing.
people answers. You owe President Trump answers.
Go.
All right, so that's where we picked it up, the last one. So these senators better be careful, man. She's just going to take Secret Service protection off of them. She's like, oh, I see. So how about we just give you guys Homeland Security investigation security teams moving forward? How'd you like that? But it is curious, right? We'll maybe change some of the security at the Capitol over there. See what you guys think about it. So here is the two senators explaining what they did, why they did it, and why they're demanding answers from our cover-up Secret Service.
I'm John Barrasso, chairman of the Senate Republican Conference, and Senator Blackburn and I just went face-to-face with the director of the Secret Service asking for specific answers about what happened with President Trump in Pennsylvania and how that shooter was able to get off a clear shot when the FBI and the Secret Service knew that there was a suspicious person an hour in advance of when the shooting occurred.
And they identified a potential threat at 5:51. She would not answer our questions. She wanted to say it was not the time or place. This is after we've been through a conference call today where the question queue got cut off. But I've got a message for her. She can run, but she cannot hide because the American people want to know how an assassination attempt
Yes, we do.
carried out on former President Donald Trump.
Yes, we do want to know the answer to that, but the Secret Service is in the middle of a cover-up. They don't want to answer any questions about this because they know that there's some culpability here. How far does it go remains to be answered. Senator Ron Johnson was a part of this terrible briefing from our useless government. He posted this on X. He says, the U.S. Secret Service Senate briefing was unbelievably uninformative. It says only 4 questions were allowed. The rest of us are supposed to submit some questions. I already have done so, and so I'm awaiting a response, but I'm not holding my breath. So here is what we have from Johnson, who sent these letters in basically immediately after from the United States Senate to the chairman, and he's on the Homeland Security and the Government Affairs Committee. So he posted this. He says, all right, FBI, DOJ, and you, Homeland Mayorkas, I've got some questions for you people. On July 13th, our nation experienced tragedy. The attempted assassination of Trump and a dead man called Corey. According to reports, the would-be assassin Crooks was armed with a rifle and he was positioning himself 164 yards away away from the stage right where Trump was speaking. Amazing. From there, the suspected gunman apparently fired at Trump, wounding him. 2 spectators at the rally were critically injured, 1 person killed. According to a Secret Service statement, the gunman fired multiple shots from an elevated position. Now they neutralized him and he's dead. Now, while there is much more information that is yet to be uncovered and shared, the American people deserve a full explanation and complete transparency about this security failure. And so accordingly, I request that your agencies, all of you, 3 of you, DOJ, FBI, and Homeland, all preserve your records because we have questions. In fact, I want answers to all of this. I want to know about the protective detail. I want to know about threats made against Trump. I want to know what you guys have done about those threats. And here's what else I want. A copy of the security plan in place, if there even was one. I want all records that came from the Secret Service, FBI, state, local law enforcement related to this. I want a detailed description of the entire vicinity, the size of the perimeter, the total number of Secret Service personnel involved, the total number of FBI people involved. This needs to be amended to include HSI, the total number of state local enforcement officials. See, because this is what happens. This is why they give everything to the HSI, because they just say, people don't think about them. They don't even ask about them. Tell me how many Secret Service and the FBI were there. Okay, and they say, well, 8 and 5. And you say, but there were 100 HSI or whatever. The total number of state and local law enforcement involved, a detailed list of all special operations division. I want to know about the counter assault team and the counter sniper teams, a complete list of all federal, state, and local entities that had access to the security plan and who were participated in the creation of it, a complete list of all federal agencies that did logistical support. Similarly, unmanned drones and what other countermeasure equipment was there. This is a nice list. A description of the screening procedures that were used and the security perimeter that was established. More questions. Question for you, government. Did the Secret Service receive requests for additional security protection from President Trump? If so, when were those requests made and were those requests granted or denied? Was the Secret Service or the FBI aware of any threats or any other information about a security threat on this particular day? More questions. We want a detailed timeline of the rally, when Trump walked on stage, when Trump was fired upon, when he was escorted off. Apparently, they tell us that one rally attendee attempted to alert the police at least 5 to 7 minutes into Trump's speech. Was Secret Service or the FBI made aware of this warning? And if so, did the Secret Service or the FBI, when did you first become aware? Have you interviewed the rally attendees, the people who tried to alert the police? Has the Secret Service identified or interviewed anybody who received an alert about the presence of the shooter? If so, we want their names. When specifically and how specifically did the Secret Service or Homeland become aware of the suspected gunman? Did the gunman evade Secret Service detection until the moment he opened fire? No. If so, why was the area not closely monitored or secured? Well, we know the answer. Was the building, including its roof, in which the suspected gunman swept by Secret Service or local law enforcement? When did the suspected gunman arrive to the rally site in Butler? How did he get to the roof? We want all electronic communications between the Secret Service, the FBI, local law enforcement. We also want to know about the assassin. Was he on a watch list from the FBI or the Secret Service or local law enforcement? Did the FBI have a file on him? Did he complete a Form 4473 to get his firearm? What social media accounts was Crooks on? Was Crooks ever communicating with anyone ever about assassinating Trump, and if so, who and when? How, when, and where did Crooks attempt or get the firearms used in this attempted assassination? And did Crooks have any criminal history or history of mental health problems? We want to know the number and the type of weapon and bullets that were recovered. How many bullets were recovered? Have all the bullets been recovered? We want all firearm tracing requests that were connected to J13. We want to know what other items law enforcement discovered after the shooter was neutralized, in addition to his electronic devices. There were reports saying that there were explosives found in the shooter's car, which was parked near the rally. When did law enforcement locate the car? Where was it parked? How long had it been parked there? Was the car parked in an area that was swept by Secret Service or law enforcement? Did you guys even look at it? Tell us about the amount of explosives that were apparently found in there. And in addition to the explosive devices, what other items were discovered in the car? All records and all of this. We want anything that you told Joe Biden too. Anything you told Mayorkas or Cheatle. And here's a question. This is a great question. Does the FBI and Secret Service believe that Crooks acted alone? All by himself? Was able to just waltz on in there and shoot Trump in the head? No. Thank you for your attention to this important matter. Please confirm the preservation of records and provide the requested information as soon as possible. Sincerely, your friend Ron Johnson, Ranking Member, Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations. So, great letter from Ron Johnson. Really nice questions. I suspect we'll get answers to almost none of that. But regardless, we want to know the answers to that. That's why Kimberly, Cheatle, and the Secret Service are so petrified about answering questions, because we're going to see that, yes, some incompetence you'd presume. It's the government, okay? We understand that they're incompetent by their nature and design. But there isn't also enough incompetence to eliminate the maliciousness, the intentional malfeasance. There's a difference between the two. And there's always an attempt to minimize intentionality with incompetence. So here is more more about the shooter. The Perfect Patsy, he was apparently a weird kid at school. They had a joke about him. Maybe he was nicknamed the school shooter. Both parents are therapists. We've heard this before. And he's just dead. No social media. Apparently some encrypted conversations with other people out there. Nobody knows who they are or what CIA office they work in. But here's what Carly Bonney clipped for us over from Fox in the Morning.
But you don't want to be the one alienating yourself from the Secret Service who's going to be with you the rest of your life. Right. So I get it. But he's got to be angry. Yeah. The more details he has to see how preventable this was, to see this guy with IEDs in his car, that his parents went out there and called the cops and said, my son is essentially dangerous. Both the parents are therapists. This guy nicknamed was the school shooter, and he gets on there with the slope of the roof. And I'm saying to myself, one day the slope was the story. Then we find out where the Secret Service was set up. It was even a steeper slope. The Secret Service director flat out lied when he said the slope was the reason we weren't on there.
Brian, I've seen on Twitter, formerly Twitter, now X.
You're banned.
The White House roof is sloped. I've seen some pictures of the Secret Service guys on the roof of the sloped White House.
Dude, the guy's shower was more sloped than that roof that the shooter was on, okay? It was like nothing. They had several different SWAT team members up there, just hanging up there on the roof like it was a sidewalk, okay? It's not even a big slope. They lied about the slope. They lied about local cops being responsible for a lot of the security. They lied about local cops being in the building. Why are they lying? It's more than just incompetence. There was intentionality here.
I think the former president's point also is that the people that were on him that day, as far as those Secret Service, they had no responsibility for what happened that day. That is the advance team. They did what they were supposed to do in the time of need. Now, you know, I've been quite honest about one of the females that were on him. I don't think she was large enough to be on the former president. She couldn't host her weapon appropriately as well. But it looks like the director has gotten that under control. He has people that are more his body type size guarding him now. But the president wanted to show them appreciation. And this is a Washington problem. And I think so often when we're talking about the FBI, CIA, our criticism isn't the rank and file people that are doing their job on the day. It's the leadership. That's the question. What is the leadership doing in the Secret Service to make sure whether it's advanced or counter snipers have the tools they need to secure our former commander-in-chief?
Supposed to get answers next week.
Yeah, we're not going to get any. It's plausible to deny. No, it's just a mistake. We didn't do anything intentionally wrong. We can deny that we wanted Trump assassinated. We just failed to secure a building. So we're going to, of course, continue to cover this, but it's reprehensible. Certainly looks like there were insiders making decisions to enable this to happen, and we're excited to continue to cover this. So my friends, thank you for joining us as we get to the bottom of this. Thank you so much for subscribing to our channel, wherever it is you're watching. Thank you for sharing this content with a friend or family member, inviting them to come join us when we go live, because this story, I think, is just at the very beginning. There is a lie and a cover-up underway, and Kimberly Cheatle is responsible for it at the direction of the rest of the Biden administration, no doubt. So we'll keep covering it. Thanks for joining us as we do.